Civilization's greatest need. Martin Luther King Jr., January 1st, 1949, Atlanta, Georgia, sermon. The greatest need of civilization today is not political security. The greatest need of civilization today is not a well-rounded United Nations organization. The greatest need of civilization today is not a multiplicity of material goods. The greatest need of civilization today is not the superb genius of science, as important as it is. The greatest need of civilization today is moral progress. On the whole, our material and intellectual advances have outrun our moral progress. Who can argue with any degree of logic that we have not progressed scientifically? Science can point to so many remarkable achievements, such tangible and amazing victories. It has freed man from many of his physical limitations. It has equipped man to see further, reach higher, travel faster, and communicate more speedily. One of my colleagues from China related to me that he flew from Shanghai to San Francisco in only 3 days. As late as 1709, it took 5 days for a letter to go from New York to Washington. Yes, science has dwarfed time and placed distance in chains. It has stamped out many of man's dread plagues and diseases, alleviated his pain, prolonged his life, and given him greater security and physical well-being. Let us turn to the realm of education. Certainly man's progress educationally has been astounding. Illiteracy stands at the very ebb today, and it's likely to vanish within a few generations. Our colleges and universities have more students today than ever before in their history. We know more about mathematics, chemistry, social science, and philosophy than we have ever known. Yes, the scientific and educational means by which we live can hardly be surpassed, but the moral and spiritual ends for which we live stand almost in a state of oblivion. Henry David Thoreau was not indulging in wishful thinking when he wrote the phrase, improved means to an unimproved end. Improved means to an unimproved end. This phrase could well characterize our modern life. Truly, it seems that our moral standards are lagging behind. In fact, they are breaking down. Homes are disintegrating. The purity of family life is disappearing. Gambling, drunkenness, prostitution, and all sorts of pathological vices flourish as never before. Human brotherhood seems to be something foreign to the peoples of the world. Races stand against races, nations against nations, religions against religions. Truly, I sometimes cry, where are the moral and spiritual ends for living? Where are the moral and spiritual ends for living? Unless we can reestablish the moral and spiritual ends of living in personal character and social justice, our civilization will ruin itself with the misuse of its own instruments. As Dr. Trueblood states in his book, The Predicament of Modern Man, modern man has built up a complex civilization, but he may lose it because in his proud hour of achievement, he has failed to apply moral direction to his moral advances. Our knowledge, no, our scientific means alone will not save us at this moment. With the most amazing means of production in history, we've got unemployment. With the most amazing world contacts on record, we make world wars. All of our knowledge and training, we hardly know enough to avoid sowing the seeds of another war. I tell you, it is not enough to have the power of concentration, but worthy objectives upon which to concentrate. It is not enough to have the accumulated knowledge of the race, but also the accumulated experiences of social living. It is not enough to know truth. We must love the truth and sacrifice for the truth. We need not only knowledge, which is power, but wisdom, which is control. I warn you, this morning, my friends. We of 1949 AD will not escape the question of our Lord. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world of means, airplane, automobile, skyscraper, subways, and lose the end, the soul? The words that the Apostle Paul wrote in a letter to the church of Philippi are still pertinent today. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are of a good rapport, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things. If civilization is to survive, she must rediscover the moral and spiritual ends for living. Eternal God, out of whose mind this cosmic universe bees thee, help us to seek that which is high, noble, and good. Help us in the moment of difficult decision. Help us to work with renewed vigor for a warless world, a better distribution of wealth, and a brotherhood that transcends race or color. Martin Luther King was ordained and appointed the associate pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church in February 1948. He functioned in this capacity during summer vacations and school holidays. Henry David Thoreau, Walden, or Life in the Woods. Our inventions are wont to be pretty toys which distract our attention from serious things. They are but improved means to an unimproved end, an end which it was already but too easy to arrive at, as railroads lead to Boston or New York. D. Elton Trueblood, The Predicament of Modern Man. This is the predicament of Western man. He's built up a complex civilization, and he may lose it because in his proud hour of achievement, he has so largely lost or never developed the inner resources that are needed to keep a possible boon from becoming a calamity. Nazi Germany was at the height of scientific and cultural advancement. Martin Luther King here is talking about how fast you could fly an airplane and how fast you could get a piece of mail from one end of the United States to the other end. In terms of the internet, in terms of communication, emails, TikTok, we've got more ways to communicate. Elon Musk is even thinking about putting out robots to be our bartenders, and then just these big, massive prisons. Just think of how efficient and cutting edge we can make these prisons. In spite of us having better cars, better architecture, better communication, better than in 1949, this message still resonates, especially in regard to the genocide in Gaza. 300,000 children have been wiped out. What does it matter if America is the premier empire? We got 50 states, 14 territories, and 1,000 pointed military bases all across the world. We're cutting U.S. aid for every nation in the world except for Israel. Do we have $5 billion for ourselves? Can we take $5 billion and make some $10,000 tiny homes so that way you won't have people freezing to death? In Detroit, a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old froze to death up in Detroit. Well, of course they did. America doesn't give a crap about human beings, says Nelson Mandela. America doesn't care about human beings. If we could turn a blind eye to 300,000 children being massacred in the Middle East, is it any surprise that we can turn a blind eye to our own children right here in front of our faces? $7 billion we got for war, but we don't have $5 billion for our own homeless, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the military. This is $900 billion, $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 trillion. We just got infinite amounts of money. Are they going to audit the Pentagon? They can't find out where $3 trillion went to. Are we going to audit the Pentagon? Can we actually do something progressive? If Donald could have allowed that ceasefire deal to hold, he should get the Nobel Peace Prize, should he not? When Martin Luther King got the Nobel Peace Prize, he said this: when our day becomes dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, we will know that we are living in the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization struggling to be born. We're at the cusp of a brand new civilization. There's a reason why you're feeling uneasy. There's a reason why you are feeling maladjusted. The people who are going to take us to the promised land are going to be those who do not adjust to this culture which allows people to not have homes and to finance and arm a genocide. And it makes sense when you feel like you're lost that you're actually living in the creative turmoil of a genuine civilization which is struggling to be born. We're on the cusp of a brand new civilization. We got to use love, compassion, but most importantly, our creativity. How are we going to stop segregation? Well, we're going to have to march. We're going to have to do speeches. We're going to have to do some sit-ins in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're going to have to go to Selma. We're going to have to do a Birmingham, Montgomery bus boycott. We're going to have to get on TV and affect the hearts and minds of the nation and get LBJ to sign the Civil Rights Act of 1964. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in this universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil. A power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Our technology and our science is surpassing our humanity. Our science and technology has lapped humanity 1,000 times over. He was saying this back in 1949, yet it's true even more so today. What does it matter if we've gained the entire world but lost our damn souls, lost our damn minds, lost our damn hearts? What does it matter? Everywhere we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. We're not just flotsam and jetsam in the stream of life. We can actually influence events. Hey, can you knock that off? Can you stop doing that? A nation or civilization that continues to produce soft-minded men purchases its spiritual death on an installment plan. Instead of being stuck on isness, we should dream of our oughtness. We are not wrong in what we are doing. If we were wrong, then the Supreme Court is wrong. If we are wrong, then the Constitution of the United States is wrong. If we are wrong, then God Almighty Himself is wrong. If we are wrong, then Jesus of Nazareth was merely a utopian dreamer that never came down to earth. If we are wrong, then justice is a lie and love has no meaning. Martin Luther King wanted justice to run like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Martin Luther King says that there are some things that are so dear, some things that are so precious, some things so eternally true that they are worth dying for. And so those people who won't fight for anything, those people who won't stand up for anything, those who don't have anything worth dying for, aren't even fit to live. Martin Luther King, he was allowed to go up to the mountain. He's been to the mountaintop. And when he went up to the mountain and he looked over the mountaintop, he's seen the promised land. And he said he may not get there with us, but he wanted us to know that tonight we as a people will get to the promised land. So he's not worried. He's not fearing any man, because thine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Law and order exists for the purpose of establishing justice, and when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. Yeah, law and order is fine, but in order to get true peace isn't the absence of conflict or tension. True peace is the presence of justice. And if law and order doesn't have the presence of justice, if it's just hierarchical oppression, then that means the law and order structures and institutions are dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Martin Luther King believes that every person in the world could have 3 square meals a day. 3 square meals for their body, education and culture for their minds, and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Human salvation lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. I've come to bring comfort to the disturbed and to disturb the comfortable. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life, and love illuminates it. Martin Luther King said that hatred is too big of a burden to carry. He chooses love, and he's going to preach about the blessings of love until they shoot him dead. How come the people that speak about peace and love and freedom and justice, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, the Kennedy brothers, Fred Hampton, Medgar Evers, Abraham Lincoln, anybody that was worth a shit, anybody that came out of our culture and said, hey, love each other, care about each other, be for peace, love, friendship, brotherhood. Don't murder, do peace. In fact, if you take a look at the preamble of the Constitution, that should give you some direction. That should give you some guidance. What are we doing here? Why do we have an American government? Because we're trying to form a more perfect union. So consider that. How can we try to form a better 50 states? Well, heck, maybe you could reach out to some of the neighboring states. Maybe you could say, hey, this thing is working here in this state, so maybe you could have those brother and sister cities. Reach out to, instead of doing a brother-sister city across the ocean, you could do one right here in another state. Call the mayor, call another mayor up. We're also supposed to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. So how can we protect our freedoms? Well, we should know our freedoms. We should learn our civic freedoms, and we should proclaim it on a mountaintop. For if we don't cede our right to everything, then it's going to be a war of everybody versus everybody. It's going to be civil war. Our civil liberties are both liberating and oppressive in some sense, because those are the only freedoms that we got, and whatever natural rights we have. But we won't have a right to everything. Why? Because we just got these stupid, puny little civil freedoms. But the whole point of the American government and the American people is to protect liberty to establish justice, to promote the general welfare, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense. If we're allowed to defend ourselves as a people, well, then certainly if we as a people are being threatened by tyranny or dictatorship or a foreign power, then we're allowed to protect ourselves. We're allowed to protect ourselves even in our individual capacities. To ensure domestic tranquility, there's our 6 end objects. 6 good things about why we've established the American government. A riot is the language of the unheard. We will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. We're not the makers of history. We are made by history. And even in our sleep, pain which cannot forget falls drop by drop upon the heart until our own despair against our will comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. So Martin Luther King believed that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality, and that even though the arc of the moral universe is long, it actually bends towards justice. Malcolm X said, time and history are on the side of the oppressed. We have dared to be free, so let's do so by ourselves and for ourselves. Foreigners and colonizers will always be the enemy of our independence. Maybe my spark of Xing Yi Quan will light the spark of Xing Yi Quan in you. This is Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Reclaim our sacred and imprescriptible rights. If the French penetrate into this fort, then detonate. Unless you're 100% sure, you better lean towards leniency instead of vengeance. Do I want to end off on a psalm? Let's end off on a random ass psalm. Psalm 143. We'll go to the 3 verses 1 through 3. Oh Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my cry for mercy, and your righteousness and faithfulness come to my relief. Do not bring your servant into judgment, for no one living righteous before you. The enemy pursues me. He crushes me to the ground. He makes me dwell in darkness like those long dead. It's a Psalm of David. You know what I'm talking about? Why not? You want it on this side or this side? That seems more distinguished.